Director of the Strategic Planning Department of Vietcombank, and my colleague Mr. Hiếu. We are from the IR team of Vietcombank, and I believe that you already have a pretty full day of information. So let me just jump right to our IR presentation, if you don't mind. I'm sorry that we have just complete the presentation with our Q3 figures. So we have some copies here. Please hand it out. So let me just start with the presentation. Our presentation gives you information about the bank overview, also about the banking landscape, and then we have more detail of the operation of our bank. So just start with the bank overview. In this slide number 4, you will see how our bank locate ourselves in the market. And if you have a look at those numbers, we are now number 3 in the market in terms of total assets, total loans, and non-bank deposit. And in terms of ownership capital, we are number 2 with about 2.2 million US dollar of ownership capital. But in terms of market capitalization, we are the largest in the market thanks to the rather high share price. Trading in the market, that makes our market capitalization of around 6.3 billion US dollar. And in terms of operation, we lead the market in card services with the total number of cards issued of around 13 million cards up to now. Also, we have the largest ATM and point-of-sale network all over the countries with more than 2,400 ATM and nearly 90,000 banking services and products are among the most stable and advanced in the market. We also have the first place in the market in terms of foreign exchange, for FX and international settlement with our long history in this sector. Please turn to the next slide. This slide will give you some milestone in our more than 50 years of history. The bank was established in 1963, and in 2007 and 2008 we carried out our IPO. And then all of our share list in the Ho Chi Minh Stock Exchange in 2009. And then 2 years after, we entered in the strategic partnership with Mizuho Corporate Bank. We are now the only strategic shareholders of the bank with ownership of 15% of our chartered capital. And the bank has become the most favorite bank brand name, which is widely recognized by prestigious institutions all over the country, all over the world. This slide will give you the corporate structure of the bank. If you have a look at the very first slide, the government currently owns more than 77% of our chartered capital, and then comes Mizuho Bank for 15%, and the other public investor account for nearly 8%. Our core banking is the commercial banking, which contribute to more than 90% of our total income. But we also have other subsidiaries and affiliates in the sectors of the economy, like in investment banking, we have Vietcombank Securities, we have the fund management company, and we do have another leasing company called VCBL, a financial company in Hong Kong called Vietnam Finance Company. And recently we set up a money transfer company in the US called VVI5 Money. In the next part, we will talk a little bit about the banking landscape. What we could say about the banking system in Vietnam is it is still at rather early stage of the development with strong. During the last 5 years, we see that the total credit growth by more than 13% per year, while the deposit increased by nearly 16% per year. And we think that the system still has the potential to continue with strong growth because until now, only 35% of the total population has the bank account, and that is a very potential market for the banks in terms of the retail banking. Also, the demographics is very favorable for banks' operation with the growing level of urbanization, especially in the big cities, and also the rising incomes, so that we see a lot of potential at the middle to upper class of customer. The other features of the banking system is that we have nearly 100 banks in the market, and we think that the number is large compared to even the other countries in the area, of which only the state-owned commercial bank accounts for 50% of the market share, both in terms of deposit and lending, and that is a very big, very different from other countries in the Asian market. And as the government has been carrying out very strong restructure program for banking system, and we have seen so far a lot of merger and M&A, restructure and self-restructure of banks, and we think that in the middle to long term, there will be a lot of change in the banking system toward a more transparent and more efficient operation. The next part will be the key highlights of our bank operation. So we listed here, there are 5 points that we want to mention, and at each point we will go more detail, so let's just skip this one. I believe that today you already got a lot of information about the macroeconomy from the presentation of SSI as well as other companies, so I won't go detail in this slide, but we would like to address that for our banks and as well as for the banking system, the macroeconomy is still a favorable factor for our operation with the strong GDP growth and stably increasing trade balance, and also well under control government budget deficit as well as the current account balance. This I will tell you about the deposit side of our bank. We are now account for nearly 10% of the market shares in terms of deposit, of which about 45% comes from corporates, and 45% of our total deposit comes from corporates, and the rest from individuals. And more than 80% comes from Vietnamese deposit. If you have a look at the chart on the right-hand side, You will see that the box with the light green present for our current accounts deposit, which increasing, the proportion increasing year by year, and is account for nearly 28% of our total deposit. So we see this source of deposit, that demand deposit is one of our advantage in the market, because it gives us the opportunity to offer our customer with lower rate than other peers. In terms of lending, our market share is now around 9%, which very recently we have seen the very strong contribution of the retail segments in terms of lending. If you have a look at the chart on your right corner, for our bank, we consider that retail banking includes SME and individuals, and the proportion of retail lending increased greatly from just around 23% in 2011 to more than 30% by the end of September. And this is one thing that we are proud of, and is also present our strategy to expand more into the retail market. The next slide will give you more detail of the breakdown of our lending in terms of the sector, by sector, by loan group, and by term. In terms of sector, you will see that the large proportion of our loans that go to process and manufacturing and trading and services, and it's quite stable over the years. By loan groups, in Vietnam, we consider that the non-performing loans including the substandard and doubtful and lost. That three groups account for 1.7% of our total loan book by the end of September, and is reduced significantly from 1.8 by the end of last year. This one is another highlight of the bank operation. We do our best to maintain the high asset qualities and quite strong capital base. And you see from this table, the loan loss reserve coverage we keep at rather high during the last 5 years. By the end of September, this ratio is in more than 126%, and it's much higher than the other peers in the market. About NPL ratio, we keep it at, I mentioned before, at the end of September is 1.7, and it's reduced greatly from 2.4 by 2012. In terms of capital adequacy ratio, we maintain it at 9.5% by the end of September, and it's higher than the required level, that is 9%, set by the SBV. Talking about the other banking operation, we have a quite long history in the trade financing and FX operation. So we are now we have the leading position in trade finance with a market share of 50%. And the very first chart on the right hand side will give you the number of export and import settlement volume during the last 5 years, and it kept increasing. For domestic settlement, we are the first and the leading e-banking platform in Vietnam, and we also the clearing center in Vietnam for foreign currencies, with our very good liquidities in foreign currency. we still carry out this function effectively. For FX, we are also the leader in the Vietnam foreign exchange market, and the income from this operation contribute to nearly 10% of our total income each year. For card services, we are also the number one bank in Vietnam for bank card with 30% of market share by the number of credit card. Also 44% of market share by the credit card payment in volume. And we do have the strategic partnership with all of the most the leading card institutions, include the Visa, Master, JCB, and for make we the exclusive user in Vietnam market. This slides of our network all over the country. By the end of September, we have 99 branches, which come with 388 transaction office. Our network covers about 50 cities over the country. And our plan is to open up about 5 to 10 branches and about 15 to 20 transaction office each year for the next coming period. This slide will give you the profitability index for the bank. And this one so far has been a very good year for our bank. We see a huge improvement in both the net interest margins, which increased from 2.5 to nearly 2.7%. Also in ROAA and ROAE, with especially ROAE increased from 12% to more than up to 14.6% by the end of September. And the pie chart on the left-hand side will give you the breakdown of our operating income structure. We still remain a diversified income structure with more than 25% of the income from non-interest income. That includes the FX, investment, and services. And we expect that by 2020, the contribution of non-interest income may get to nearly 30% of our total income. For cost-to-income ratio, our cost-to-income ratio has been kept at very low in compared to other peers in the market. We have maintained it at around 40 to 41%. And for this year, we expect that it will still remain at most 41% for the whole years. This slide, this is the picture of our share price. Since listed, our bank shares has always been traded at the highest among other listed banks in the Vietnam market. This one is another features of the highlights of the bank. That is the qualities of the management team. With most of the member of the management has the span of about 20 to 30 years of experience in the banking system. And the next part is the growth strategy and targets. My colleague Mr. Hugh will help me with this one.
Okay, so let's start with the slide. On this slide, you can find information about our vision to 2020 and also our strategy. So our goal is to become the #1 bank in Vietnam and become ranking among 300 biggest financial institutions in the world. And in order to achieve that goal, we have 5 pillars here. And the first we call initiative. And the first one is become the top 1 in retail and the top 2 in wholesale banking. That's the first one. And the second one is that we aim to be the most profitable bank with an ROE of around 15%. And number 3 is the number 1 bank by customer satisfaction. And number 4 is best local bank in terms of human resources. And number 5 is I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but okay, so let's move on with our presentation. Okay, so the last one and also the 5th one is that we aim to be the best local bank in terms of risk management. So that's the 5 initiatives that we are carrying out right now. And also on the next slide is that our target corporate structures. And you can see that those boxes in yellow are those units that we are planning to open, that including a consumer finance company and also AMC, which is an asset management company. And the third one is that a domestic money transfer. And last but not least, we also aim to open a training center. Also, in order to, this is our key strategic initiatives, including in 3 areas. The first one is also is about business. So the first area is, okay, we are experiencing some technical difficulty here. I'm trying to get everything in order. Okay, all right, let's continue. All right, so the first area is business expansion, and the second one is the enhancement of corporate governance, and the third one is about capital raising. In terms of capital raising, we are doing a private placement right now. And as you may know that investment fund in Singapore is in the process of getting the approval from the government to buy more than 7% of our stakes. So in the near future, we are open to more options to raise our share capital for both of foreign investor and individual investors. On this line, you can see some target for our bank. In terms of growth, we are aiming to have a loan growth of around 17 to 18%, and for deposit growth of around 16 to 17%. In terms of quality, we aiming the LDR, the loan to deposit ratio of around 80 to 85%. The NPL, the non-performing loan, of below 2%, which is quite reasonable because, as we mentioned before, our loan NPL ratio is only 1.7% for this year. And in terms of profitability, we aiming to have an interest income growth of 16 to 17%, and a cost to income ratio of around 40%. So that's pretty much conclude our presentation today, and now we will open up the floor to any question you may have.
มีคำถามไหมคะ
have more questions.
Yes.
As the interest rate is quite high, about 5%, and however, you told us that Vietnamese people deposit only have deposit only 1/3. What is the reason behind this fact? Thank you. What do they save in? Do they save in other asset, or what kind of asset do they save their money?
I'm sorry, the interest rate that you mentioned, that 5.5%, is applied for, is the cap for
Okay.
short term, yep.
Why the people have only 1/3? Have bank deposit account only
Okay.
1/3.
Yeah, I see. That is the, I think that is the historical story, because previously Vietnamese people wanted to keep money at home rather than put it into a bank, or rather they invest in house or the real estate rather than put it into the deposit. And recently we see very strong movement, especially for the younger generation, in the habit they are now keep their money in the bank account, and for daily transaction also they have they use the bank services other than by cash, as it used to be. So even the proportion of population with the bank account is quite low in compared to other countries. We think that it will have a very strong potential to increase in the coming period. Sorry, I think the micro is not working. Is that working?
Hello, as your government is going to apply the stricter standard for banking sector, so do the banking sectors need to increase more capital, inject more capital into the asset? Thank you.
Well, that's very true, because the State Bank of Vietnam has required the 10 largest banks to apply the Basel II requirement. That is the very first stage of the restructure program, and we are among the 10 banks that were required by the SBB to apply Basel II by the end of 2018. And actually for our bank, we see that we will need to inject a lot of capital to meet the requirement of Basel II, and we are very actively carry out our own Basel II project, and we are sure that we will apply Basel II by the end of 2018. And for the whole banking system, we see that other banks have the same problem, and they are now trying very hard to attract more capital from both domestic investor and foreign investor. But we are facing some difficulties because the current cap for foreign investor is now at 30%. and some of the large banks have already nearly hit the cap, and so we will need the change in the legal framework. So that is a very difficult condition because it belongs to the government to decide.
My last question is, I would like to ask that how would you find more deposit? The first strategy to expand your branches, or the second strategy is to apply more technologies to induce people to use internet banking. Thank you.
Actually, during the last 3 to 4 years, the bank, Vietcom Bank, has offered deposit rate at the very low level in compared to other banks in the market. But our deposit still grew at double digits each year, and we believe that the main reason, the reason behind is the qualities of our value-added services to the deposit customer, as well as the safety nets of the bank and our reputation in the market. So for the next period, we will continue to remain those advantages, as well as we will continue to further improve our IT infrastructures to provide our customer with the best experience in e-banking services and products. So those are the main factors that we believe that we can maintain the strong growth of deposits. Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a few questions. Following on a question from the previous one, could you elaborate more about what are the requirements from the SBV for the banks that you need, like how much capital you need, or what are the other ratios that you need to maintain or improve?
Actually, the SBV is drafting the instruction to apply Basel II, and we learned from the draft that the requirement, the required capital adequacy ratio will be at 8% as usual under Basel II, and currently we apply the requirement, the regulation of Circular 36 that requires the banks to keep CAR at 9%. But if we do the calculation under Basel II, the current CAR will reduce by 2 to 2.5%. That means bank will need a lot of capital to maintain 8% CAR under Basel II, and that's the key requirement of the SBV.
And from the presentation that you show on the slide, I saw that the capital adequacy ratio has keep decreasing from 40% to about 9% now. Can you tell us more what happened to your capital?
Actually, it's very natural change for CAR, because as our calculation for each percentage of increases in total assets, for our annual growth of asset of around 30%, CAR will reduce by 1% each year, and it's very natural. Is it what you mentioned?
So you're saying that your asset growth more than your capital, so that's why the ratio.
Yes, that's the reason.
I saw that your loan portfolio for the retail keep growing. Can you tell more about what are the purpose of this loan? Is that for residential or what type of loan?
As we presented here, the proportion of individual loans is now 23% of our total books, and of which 24% go to mortgage. About other 20% will go to the loans with a business purpose. That is the normally loans that go to households with the business, with their own business. And then around 15% will go to some the special loans that we call valuable papers. And then the loans that go to automobile loans account for about 5% of those 23%. That is the major purpose of the individual loans. So for mortgage, for this year, by the end of September, the mortgage grew by more than 40%, that is 40% year to date. And we think that the mortgage will be the main driver for individual lending growth for our banks. Any other question, please?
One more question.
Yes.
If you apply the Basel II standard, what will be the level of NPL that you will report?
Under Basel II?
If you will apply the standard today, what will be the level of NPL that you will
Actually, the new regulation, the new draft of the regulation does not require us to reclassify our NPL. Banks still classify NPL under the current requirement. Regulation of the SBV is a Vietnamese standard. And they won't change under the two.
No more question? Okay. Thank you very much for coming and presentation about VCB.
Thank you.
Yes, now we have a small gift for you.
Oh.
You can